Greetings, astrology lovers and YouTube world. This is Angel D reporting from sunny Southern California with the most important Vedic planetary transits for April of 2024. Well, hello and welcome. This is a big month in the sky with the solar eclipse taking the spotlight on the 8th of April. This energy will be emphasized with Mercury going retrograde on the 2nd and staying in this condition until the 26th of April. And another big conjunction happens on the 20th when Uranus joins Jupiter in the sign of Aries. While Vedic astrology doesn't really traditionally focus on planets after Saturn, this is a big day that many Jyotishas are discussing on their YouTube channels. And a Jyotisha is a practicing Vedic astrologer. So, before we jump into the details of this month, I'd like to clarify that I practice Vedic astrology. This is the sidereal system based on the constellations, which have slowly shifted over thousands of years when the tropical and sidereal systems used to align. Vedic astrology focuses on where the planets are astronomically placed in the constellations. So this means that most planets are located 23 degrees earlier than where they are in the tropical system. So if your sun sign is in Aries, for example, in the tropical world, it may likely mean it is in Pisces in the Vedic world. There's a slight difference. There's a slight chance that that doesn't take place, but that's in a 6-degree window. So the moon only goes back 13 degrees, and the possibility of your moon staying in the same sign in either system is more likely because of that. In order for my predictions to actually resonate with you, you'll need to calculate your Vedic chart for this to work. So click on this link in the comments, which will take you to a calculator. There you will check your ascendant and your moon sign. These are the positions that Vedic astrologers read your natal chart from. They're both important to hear for your predictions, so you need to be exact with your birth time. That's how we get the ascendant. Once you calculate, you got to scroll down until you see a section that says planetary details. There you'll see the first planetary detail says ASC. That is your ascendant, and that's what starts your chart. That's what dictates the chart. And that's also known as what is called your unique path. And that's why it's really important to read from the ascendant, because that's what shows your karmas in your chart. But your moon is also very important, and a lot of astrologers read from the moon sign because the moon represents your mind and your reality. Go ahead and pause the video, whatever you need to do. Go to this chart calculator, look up what you have, and then when you're listening to these predictions, I recommend that you listen to the one for your ascendant and the one for your moon sign. Now that you know your ascendant and your moon sign, let's press forward. So I'm going to go over a little bit of how these transits are working this month. We'll start with the solar eclipse. Solar eclipses occur when the moon situates herself between Earth and the sun. Solar eclipses are connected with the North Lunar Node, which is known as Rahu in Vedic astrology. Rahu represents our desires, attachments, anxieties, obsessions, or what we feel we are very driven to achieve in this life. But Rahu also represents overconfidence in whatever arena he dominates in our natal charts. This is where the confusion comes in. Where Rahu is situated in your chart, or where Rahu is transiting currently, you'll notice that you are very drawn to the themes of those houses. And you might think you have a good grip on what those themes represent in your life, as opposed to the truth of the realities. So this is how Rahu creates confusion, because the desire is so powerful in those houses that you might become like overly attached or overconfident with those themes, when really there's a whole other level of something going on there. So that also can lead to a type of arrogance, and that disallows us at times to explore the themes of those houses from alternative perspectives, because that challenges our egos, and Rahu is this ego desire machine. Everybody has a Rahu placement in their chart. You know, we're all dealing with Rahu energy forever. But the idea behind Rahu is to really, delve into this kind of seemingly unknown part of our chart or wherever it's transiting and dig into it, but to find ways to gain some perspective on it at the same time, so that you don't just wholeheartedly go into these desires and forget that other people are around you, or that you're in the world and that you're connected with everyone. Rahu can create a sense of separateness, but at times we really need that energy and drive from Rahu, the North Node, to get to higher levels of consciousness. So in astrology, there's always these dualities of energy. You can always have one and the other with any planet. Now, Mercury, we're having a Mercury retrograde this month. Mercury is the planet of communication, data, information, and intelligence. About 3 times a year, or about every 4 months, Mercury enters his retrograde status. Now, retrogrades in astrology represent periods of reflection. It's where we need to still ourselves and go inward. So when we have a Mercury retrograde, we need to be mindful of our speech, because we can become easily misinterpreted. This is associated with any form of communication, so that's why technology can be affected in retrogrades, and Mercury retrogrades more specifically. So things just seem to stop working all of a sudden. And this retrograde happening during the eclipse cycle is predicted to emphasize the chances of communications halting in one way or another. So this could be not just like between you and another person or other people. This is on like a global level. So we're talking like, some people have predicted that solar flares are going to hit maybe around the eclipse time that could cut out, cell phone capabilities, or, radio communications, etc. And that's because when we go into eclipse cycles, or we go into the eclipses, I should say, that interrupts the ionosphere, which reflects and modifies radio waves used for communication and in navigation. So really expect delays in travel. And we already saw this happen actually in Baltimore when the shipping container ship it lost power, and it smashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and it completely destroyed the bridge. So that's one example. That happened on the lunar eclipse that was on March 25th, and we're going to have another one on April 8th. Now let's talk a little bit about Uranus. Uranus represents upheaval, which can lead to revolutionary action and a new level of awareness from breaking out of patterns. When Uranus comes into conjunction with Jupiter, the planet of knowledge, wisdom, and expansion, you can start to put this picture together. We're in for a spiritual awakening, and because it takes place in the sign of Aries, it may be a rather explosive one, or maybe even a little violent. Aries is a very impulsive energy and can be very aggressive. So we may see an increase in violence, war, conflict in the 3rd week of April. It could really be the entire month, because these are such intense transits that are happening. And this conjunction could really cause some drastic change, and hopefully that's for the better. And Jupiter will definitely try and make that the case, because Jupiter wants us to receive knowledge with wherever he's transiting in the sky. This just happens to be in like a Mars-ruled sign. It's very assertive. It's very independent energy. It's like wants to know itself. And it's about making decisions as well from an unconscious place. It's really about what makes you feel protected. So we could see some type of revolution or rebellion happening somewhere in the world. We can already see it happening. People are getting really fed up in certain parts of the world, and when this conjunction happens, it could really just set it off. So now that you have a background with what these transits mean, I'm going to apply them to your sign. So let's move on. Okay, Aries ascendant and moon. These transits affect your 1st and 12th houses, with the eclipse in the 12th. Mercury retrograding between the 1st and the 12th, and the conjunction in your 1st house. So hopefully that made sense. This is a vacillation between feeling very self-assured and then detached from yourself all of a sudden. The 12th house is associated with prison, spiritual awakening through integrating the shadow, addiction, and moksha, which is the the Sanskrit word for liberation. That's one interpretation of the word moksha. So it could feel like a tear between your current identity and knowing that parts of the self are going away now. And so be careful if you have addictive tendencies in this time that's associated with the 12th house. If you happen to enjoy substances that could negatively affect your body, I really recommend in this time that you test whatever you take. It's best to employ spiritual practices in this time too as you go through this confusing experience, because it's really, that transition, Mercury retrograde, going from Aries in the 1st back into Pisces in the 12th, that's like going from the head back to the feet, if that makes sense. Like you're kind of just this energy of going backwards, which is a retrograde, but that's also how the nodes move too. So it's really emphasized in this month. There might be, again, that feeling of confidence and like really wanting to understand your true self, but it keeps dipping back into the 12th house, which makes you question, do you really know who you are, or do you need to go deeper into the subconscious parts of yourself and really pull those up and examine them? Where are you escaping, and how is that actually stopping you from becoming the truest version of yourself? So yeah, I mean, let me keep going here. Aside from testing those substances, making sure that if you are trying to escape in this time, that you escape safely. So there may be a desire to avoid the stresses of everyday life too, and forget about your health. That's because the South Node is transiting in your 6th house. But don't throw away that intuition. That mirrors what I was just saying about substance use. You must stay on track. You be extra careful with your speech too with this retrograde, because Mercury rules your 3rd and 6th houses of arguments and enemies. You might say something you regret. This period is best for humbling yourself and going inward to see where your impulses might bring you regret. There's no doubt you will feel a major awakening in yourself coming the 3rd week of April, when the conjunction takes place in your 1st house, the house of the true self, the body, your identity. You will be stronger after this month, but just make sure to take it slow and mind your habits. This is a big shift in identity for the Aries people. There might be a part of yourself you're getting so sick of that you just want to change it all of a sudden. And it's just really powerful energy when it comes into that sign. So take it slow if you can. Taurus, ascendant and moon. You've already been dealing with some feelings of insecurity this past year, and that's because Jupiter has been transiting your 12th house in the sign of Aries. This is a house of financial loss. It can feel like you're imprisoned. It feels like something really deep inside of you is trying to come to the surface. And that's not what Taurus likes, really. This is an earth sign that wants, predictability and, a dedication on their path. So when Jupiter, comes into these moksha houses, the 12th, the 4th, or the 8th houses, this is a time of this kind of upheaval. And, sometimes we can't be so certain of our paths, and they might take a different direction. Taurus, you love that stability and dedication to your personal path, because your 1st house is Taurus, and whatever house Taurus rules in a chart is where we see how devoted we are in life. And so for you, it's to yourself, your true self. But this month can really be the month that shakes it up for you. It's already been feeling a little shaky, but this could really be, coming to the precipice point of that for you. That's because this retrograde is vacillating between your 12th and 11th houses, and that suggests miscommunications and feelings of distance with your social groups, and even in your work situations, and even how you're seen by others. You may feel that your status in work and your network circles, your friend circles, whatever it is making you feel a little insecure. But that's because there are new realizations integrating into your awareness. You have to recognize your own value at this time and assert it gently towards others. The eclipse in your 11th house suggests an attachment to those social and network groups that ultimately have to change now. There's something that's going to change. And that might be you showing more of your value to these folks and that could put you on even a higher level of recognition for what you do by asserting yourself even more. But there's something you're sick of, and Rahu is magnifying that energy. It's going to make you end something, and that's also magnified or doubled down on with that Uranus conjunction coming up. So it's a leveling up in this realm of what success means to you. So you can make those changes, but this is really a big change with that Uranus-Jupiter conjunction happening as well in your 12th house. The way you level up in your social groups is through deep spiritual work, which shakes that groundedness you have. But this is the only way to get to the next level for you, Taurus. Deep integration of the unconscious self. And luckily, Mars ruling that 12th house for you gives you that energy and courage to confront those parts of yourself that are unconscious, that need to come up, even though you know how uncomfortable it feels. So perhaps you've been hearing those negative voices in your head lately, those self-negating thoughts, and you just don't believe it. They're coming up because they're old words that need to be examined and let go of. That's what happens when you're doing moksha, liberation work in your chart, which you are this year. So yeah, they're just cropping up in your mind so that you can transform those into new patterns of behavior that serve your mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. So best of luck to you on the spiritual development. There's going to be some big breakthroughs for you in this month. And just hang on, Taurus. You know how to hang on. Gemini, Ascendant, and Moon. There's been a lot of recent action in your career world. The current nodal transit situates itself on your 10th and 4th house axes. With this upcoming eclipse, your 10th house of career will be affected. Your desire to be inspired in your work is at an all-time high. You may be feeling a strong pull to upgrade your career and status in career, making yourself even more known in your social networks. The focus to make more money and rise in status at times feels stressful, but keep that strong determination inside of you. You're getting there. There may be some tension in the career realm because you know something has to change, and when this eclipse comes on April 8th, you'll be able to see that more clearly. So, and then with Mercury retrograde, you're being asked to pay attention to your emotional state at this time because the intensity of this transit will affect your sense of emotional peace and your sense of identity. That's because Mercury rules your 1st house of identity and your 4th house of emotional peace. And Mercury is your ruler, Gemini. So use that gift of charismatic speech to influence your work realm, as long as you are patient and careful with your words at this time. And just employ your emotional intuition and your core sense of self to get your message across. Come April 20th, there could be big changes surrounding your friend and work groups. So maybe you see where patterns in these relationships aren't working anymore and you're just not having it. And also be careful about spending money at this time. You might need to keep some for a rainy day. Cancer, Ascendant, and Moon. Cancer, you are in a stage of deeply exploring your purpose and applying it to your work. You have a fierce desire to educate yourself at this time and all that brings creativity and knowledge to you. Your Lord, the Moon, enters your 9th house of belief systems and knowledge on this solar eclipse, synthesizing your conscious confidence in this arena and your unconscious desires, which need integration around these new philosophies and sense of purpose that you are integrating. And so you may feel the desire to travel somewhere and seek spiritual regeneration, but you're also super busy with work. So it's a matter of balance. Don't burn out. Find a way to, meet your spiritual needs and what makes you feel inspired, but also, you got a lot of work on your plate right now. So something inside you may be pushing you to give it up to God, quote unquote, or stay in receptivity mode. But remember that your free will is an important ingredient in this spiritual recipe. Potential miscommunications at work could get you feeling angry, but just let it simmer and go inward like you've been doing so well to seek the truth. You might be missing some piece of information because your emotions are so powerful. They affect you so much. So something big will shift in your career this month too. And that's with that conjunction happening in Aries, in your 10th house. So you might learn something very important that affects your perspective on work situations. You may find yourself striving for more justice or equality in the workplace even. And Mercury is a tough planet for you, ruling your 12th and 3rd houses. That's a house of, again, distance or suppression in ways. And the 3rd house is a house of arguments. So that's kind of a challenging combination because Cancer's a very emotional sign, and it can be at times very challenging to express those deep, complex emotions inside of you without getting very frustrated. So that's why this retrograde is going to have to really make you slow down and think about how to clearly communicate those deep, complex feelings inside of you that affect your work situation and what you're trying to achieve here in this life. So take that time, like I said, and you might need to be standing up for yourself or standing up for others, which Cancers are very good at. They fight for the underdog. They fight for children. They fight for real, recognition and equality with others. So my advice here is to be airtight in your convictions, and the retrograde will test that. So best of luck to you, Cancer. Leo ascendant and moon. So Leo, this is a pretty tough month for you, but luckily you're a strong-willed sign with a lot of energy to power through. And sometimes we have to delve into our insecurities and see where we're falling short for ourselves and others. And you may feel like you're having a lot of humbling experiences at this time that leave you either beating yourself up or feeling estranged from other people. But this is not the case. You have been doing intense shadow work that will lead you to a new level on your higher path. Be still and let that information come to you. Some people may suddenly go in this time period, and some might magically appear. Your 8th house, the house of sudden changes and deep transformation, might mark an important encounter that could flash by, but leave a permanent mark on your psyche. So whether it be a positive or negative experience, remember that it is a lesson. You can be a fantastic orator and are able to touch the hearts of those on a larger scale. Leo is the king, after all. So when Mercury goes retrograde from your 9th house to your 8th house, you may feel at a loss for words. But really, it's a time to show a little bit of vulnerability in your communication. Can you figure out a way to do this with charisma and grace? I think you can. You are a Leo, after all. You will have to stand up for your values. There might be a shift or letting go in your values, too, that, with Ketu in your 2nd house. And it might also make you feel a little rigid about how you communicate. But those values, you might be a little withholding. But it's really about being a little more vulnerable now, so people can really understand what you're going through. And that's because those values that you may feel afraid to share, that fear might be coming from an abandonment. If someone hears your truth, they might go away. But if they do go away, that means they weren't meant to be. So wherever you feel that need to really be vulnerable and share what you're going through, don't hold back. And there's ways to do it that will make you feel safe and feel comfortable. And with this conjunction happening on the 20th, you might finally see where you really need to change in order to reach your higher purpose. There's this, this conjunction is so big, it's going to just create massive change, and that's in your 9th house. That's your belief systems. That's how you philosophize. It's all these things where what you know or what you think your purpose is, or maybe you don't think you have a purpose, starts to come into perspective pretty big. We all have a purpose, and you have a strong and loving heart. So if you stay receptive, you'll be able to hear those words more clearly. This is a little more, I think, a period of receptivity for you, a fire sign that naturally wants to go for it and take charge. But this might be a time where you have to exercise a little bit of restraint. Virgo, ascendant and moon. This is a very powerful time this month and in the overall year for you, Virgo. The South Node is posited in your first house, while the North Node in Pisces resides in your 7th house. This is a balancing and a coming to awareness about where you end and someone else begins. Your identity and your most committed relationships. That's the first house and the 7th house, respectively. You may be feeling some insecurity about yourself with Ketu in your first, but he's asking you to let the parts of your identity that don't show your true self go away now. Virgo wants to be in control, but Ketu wants to let go. Ketu in the first house can make someone seem real cool and collected, this illusion of being detached. But that's not usually what's going on when you have this transit or it's in your natal chart. It's actually a type of rigidity because you don't want to show that you might be feeling chaotic inside sometimes. You might be afraid that people will think you're a nut bar, but we're all nut bars. So let go of that rigidity. It's holding you back. Find the beautiful, loving version of yourself, and that might come through the most important relationships in your life right now. The people who can reflect that back to you safely and show you the most beautiful parts of yourself. Be that your spouse, a partner, people you work with, your closest friends. The old you really is going away, but just allow it to happen because it's going to go no matter what. You've already been experiencing a level of this instability or change on a deeper level for a couple of years now, and now it's really coming to a head. And that's with the previous nodal transit in Aries in your 8th house, and now you have Jupiter there in your 8th house, and you have Mercury there in your 8th house. And then you're going to have Uranus coming into your 8th house on the 20th. And that's that house of instability. And earth signs just don't want to feel unstable. But this is going to test that for you, and hopefully it works out well. So those are big changes surrounding your feelings of insecurity. Maybe you're sick of avoiding the void. That's the 8th house. Maybe you're really ready to dive in now. Mercury, your ruler, doesn't feel so comfortable in the 8th house because here the planet that makes you such a good coworker and associate is not feeling so strong. This impacts your sense of self. So when your ruler goes retrograde into your 7th house, be mindful to not let the fleeting emotions surrounding those insecurities project onto your most important relationships or at work. This is part of that, where I end and you begin, or the delineation between the self and the other. You're really on the verge of a big shift, so you may finally give in to getting that help you deserve because you're such a tough cookie who rarely shows your perceived weaknesses. So time for the healer to seek healing. You got this, Virgo. Libra, ascendant and moon. Feeling stressed in your relationships, Libra? Not feeling like you're being heard and getting some pushback? Well, that all makes perfect sense. Perhaps you've been feeling a bit stuck creatively, too. This month will push you to your limit. Arguments may arise with your spouse or close relationships. You must keep your stress under control and find ways to communicate the parts of yourself that you really believe in, but also feel so distant from. The eclipse happening in your 6th house will force you to deal with your health on a new level. Nothing to be afraid of, though, but just take more care in this arena. It's important that your nervous system is regulated. When you're feeling triggered, it causes immense dysregulation. So you may find around the eclipse time, it's a new way to work with this energy since Rahu desires to understand it so much right now. Rahu in that 6th house of health and wanting to focus on that. So your overall health is good. You have Venus transiting there too right now, and the sun's there. These are planets that can help with good health. But it may be the stress of dealing with others that gets you down. So Libra often wants to go to others to validate who they are. But that's not happening right now for you. There may be big changes in your business relationships and long-term committed relationships with all these transits. Maybe you're tired of how your communication is going in this realm. When Uranus joins Jupiter in your 7th house on April 20th, you may see now how you've been a bit controlling with those relationships as of late, and that it might have to explode so you can start anew. So you could find yourself in conflict, but if those relationships are secure, you know that you're being heard on a new level. So hang tight. Find the words to express your frustration and communicate them as neutrally but with conviction as possible. Libras are very principled people, although they don't readily share those beliefs because of the stress it can induce for them. But what are you going to do? Just keep it in? Find a way to release those beliefs, those principles, so that people can be clued in to the depth of you. Once people see that inner power, they'll be able to respect you more than maybe you're feeling that they do at this time. So you may also have to deal with issues with your pets at this time too. That's because of the 6th house. And your pets might be struggling with their health, and they might need your loving support. Or you might be really wanting to get a pet. So hang on. This is a little bit of a bumpy month for you, but you're making really good progress. Scorpio, ascendant, and moon. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Scorpio, what a time, what a time. You might have so many creative ideas brewing that you don't even know where to begin right now. Maybe those ideas are so intense that it's stressing you out and you're not acting. This is the month, though, where things will come to a head. You're doing really hard work at this time on mental and emotional resilience, pushing hard through those feelings of insecurity and doubt and sticking to the course. So, if anything, write down all of those amazing ideas you have right now, so you'll have them for when the stress and overwhelm subsides. You may be feeling a bit attacked by others too. Maybe your vibe is stressing other people out, but just stay in your lane, stay true to yourself. Mercury going retrograde from your 6th to your 5th house could bring stresses into your creative realm and romantic relationships. These are like lighter romantic relationships. But perhaps you can view it from a different perspective. Maybe you need to compartmentalize or separate your mind from the matter, if that makes sense. Take some space and remove yourself from the mix so you can see outside of your emotional and psychological realm. And there you can continue on your resilient path by integrating what triggers you and overcoming what past relationships did to make you feel so stressed. Mercury rules your 8th and 11th houses. So you have a deep psychological awareness, that's the 8th house, that you love to share with others, the 11th house. But it's so deep that it can be misunderstood. While this retrograde occurs, pay special attention, special mind to how you disseminate your knowledge. You want to be understood so you don't regress in this big change right now. There's a potential for your health to take a turn this month too. So keep your nerves as calm as possible and stick to healthy regimes. The conjunction on April 20th might make you want to go hard at the gym and get that perfect body because you feel like your progress is going too slow. But keep the pace. I mean, that Mars energy makes you just want to bust it out. But we know that doesn't work. So if you go too hard, you might be forced to take a break. That's why I'm saying that. And it's a break you don't want to take. Taking a break, breaking a take. What am I talking about? I don't know. Mars is your ruler, and this conjunction happens in the other Mars-ruled sign, Aries. You might have to fight for something this month. And this is again going back to like the 6th house and the health and whatever, but it's also this house of enemies, and Mercury is there. So Mercury's in this Mars-ruled sign, if you're catching my drift. So you might find that you have to fight on your personal behalf. Maybe you have to fight in the medical world, even with a doctor for them to believe you, or you might be fighting on behalf of your pets. And remember, you are a warrior type. You're very strong, but you're also a little bug. You're a scorpion with a shell. And then you have this soft interior. Sometimes even you can back down from conflict when you need to stand your ground. And this might happen this month, and get ready for that. Sagittarius, ascendant, and moon. Emotions have been running high. There's a deep desire to heal right now and find inner peace. You might be experiencing some karma with your mother right now at this time as well. She may need your attention and support. There's a strong desire too for you to feel safe and comfortable. You might really be wanting to snuggle down at home and get your living space as cozy as possible. You strive for emotional peace at this time so you can take that into your creative endeavors. It's important that we know what makes us feel good before we go and share it and make it into something. And the amount of inspiration coming through your intuition at this time is massive, and it has to go somewhere. So Jupiter, which is transiting your 5th house, completely supports those inspirations that you are intuitively experiencing with that 4th house, with these 4th house transits where Rahu is and all these other planets. And Jupiter wants you to expand on those ideas. But you might move a little more quickly than you need to at this time. So make sure that you have a decent foundation worked out when it comes to starting the new project, whatever that may be. And now that Mercury is also in your 5th house with Jupiter, this is an opportunity finally to synthesize the information that you've been garnering in this time internally with the wisdom of Jupiter. And that is going to really help make meaning of all these things that you've been learning about yourself for you to move creatively in a new direction. And it's a beautiful combination, really, Mercury and Jupiter there, with that fiery Aries energy. Also, you may be doing really well in school if you're a student. You might be rocking it as an educator. That's with that Jupiter transit there. And Mercury, too, is a powerful planet for you, ruling your 7th and 10th houses. These are called Kendra houses. Kendra is the house of stability. So Mercury is going to retrograde from your 5th house in Aries to your 4th house in Pisces. And the 4th house is another Kendra house. So I interpret this as a time where Mercury really helps you realize some bigger goals that bring you stability in your life. But per usual, you have to take good care of how you express your creative ideas to others. You may find yourself in a false start with a project, having to go back and reassess or make some corrections. But you're about to have a big breakthrough in this realm. When that conjunction happens, it might come in the form of taking unconventional approaches to how you start a new business or creative project even. Capricorn, ascendant and moon. Capricorn, you've been going in on your personal interests these days. Perhaps you've been inspired to write it all down. Lots of creative ideas coming to you that bring you so much pleasure. Fantasizing, perhaps, about creative ideas or potential lovers. You might be swirling up in the heavens in your mind, perhaps being a bit reclusive while doing so. And maybe that's due in part to wanting to avoid others because they could potentially make your heart hurt. Capricorns love to be in control of their environments so their hearts feel at peace. But you like to recharge on your own too, in solitude, to feel at peace. And Mars ruling the 4th house creates a fiery, passionate heart. That's Aries. Love hard, hurt hard, Capricorn. But somewhere inside you knows that you need to be at the helm of your own ship right now. You may not be placing so much of your faith in belief systems or higher powers as much as you are trying to steer on your own. And don't forget the gems of wisdom you have learned from your endeavors in philosophy. They're going to help you balance in this time as you kind of go into uncharted waters. You might experience some type of emotional upheaval later in the month too when that conjunction happens. You might be sick of the way you protect your heart and just want to open it up. Jupiter. The warrior heart can protect while staying open. It is possible. It's possible to have both. And the retrograde might very well synthesize your creative ideas with what lies deep in your heart. So there might be also this big shift in how you relate with your mother, which is the 4th house association, once your heart center opens more. It's like this kind of reparenting thing too that could be coming into play. You becoming your own mother, you showing yourself your own unconditional love that your mother is supposed to show you. And not all of us get that, of course, and we have to find it in our own way, and that really can soften us. So don't be afraid to be a bit vulnerable. And maybe that begins with your writing, whatever. And writing could be, whatever. It doesn't have to be literally writing. It can be any kind of form of like creative or things that inspire you to bring you joy in your life. And you don't have to show anybody any of that work or whatever you're doing, but it can be a tool. It can be something that you slowly practice by showing it to maybe friends first, and maybe that feels really good, and then maybe you can take it to the next level from there. But we take these periods of time to express our own interests or like what's going on for us, because if we love it, we're going to integrate that into our lives, and we're going to want to share that with the world. And that's how we evolve the third house. That third house can be associated with ego and willpower and arguments and having troubles with your siblings and things like that. And that's because you're kind of like fighting to feel good. But that can only go so far, because the way we feel the best and the most fulfilled is by serving others. So that's how that house evolves, very similarly to how the 11th house evolves. Aquarius, ascendant, and moon. You are in a strong phase of independence and deep growing in your values. You're really taking big steps to solidify your personal value. There's a very good chance that you want to buy nice things for your home, eat foods that fill up your spiritual well, and be around inspiring friends. The desire to seek stability, independent from others, is extremely strong, and it is important in this time. You're paving your own path stronger than ever. And there's a chance you might cheat a bit and eat a sweet treat or drink a little more than usual this month. And that's okay to do that sometimes, but in moderation, And the eclipse might make you feel unstable, but what it's really doing is testing your strength and ability to stick to your values. This is a really strong determination period for you. And maybe that's like a lover from the past, or a friend, or a new lover that's there to test or tempt you. It could be anything. It could be food. It could be drugs. It could be whatever. But do you really want that right now? So if you don't want to be tested like that, you may be or not, but if you think that's really going to derail all of this work you've been doing on valuing your truest self, then resist that. Be careful in this retrograde with Mercury transiting from your third house of arguments back into your second house of speech. You could really get fired up about something and misrepresent your values when you go to speak. And you could be dealing with family at this time, more specifically with your siblings. You might have some issues there, maybe needing to clarify things with your siblings. And with that upcoming conjunction, there may be a big shift that throws you off of your personal course. But maybe you wake up to some blind spots in your approach of how to take your personal interests to the next level. A level of service, as I was talking about with Capricorn. So maybe you're noticing that how, if you're listening to all of these predictions, how each sign is sharing a house. So each sign that's next to each other shares some quality from the other house. So anyway, Aquarius, you could really be sick of playing small. And when this conjunction comes, you might be ready to go big. So do it, Aquarius. And finally, patient Pisces. Pisces always at the end. Pisces ascendant and moon. This is a very powerful year for you in general, the whole thing. And that's with Rahu transiting your first house. You're going through a complete transformation of the self. You might feel like your body has been split in two and there's this magical zipper zipping you up the center, synthesizing it all. Think of the Temperance card in the tarot. You're trying to alchemize yourself on the biggest level. With Jupiter in your second house and Mercury there now, it's highly important that you stick to your values and make sure you meet all your needs in the world of stability, because this is a lot of deep personal transformation. Pisces, you're so ethereal that you can easily be living one life on the inside while another is happening on the outside. It's a time to marry the two in a balance you've never felt before. Ketu is transiting in your 7th house, and that's the house of relationships. And really, you're learning to let go of what other people think about you. And you're really starting to kind of unmask or show yourself in a way, because sometimes you're too influenced by others to show you your true self and identity. There has to be a balance here. You have to have that inner knowing and trust, which you do. But again, because you're such an ethereal sign, you can go way out into all these different ideas and thoughts that make you this very mutable, adaptive energy. But who are you at the core? Sticking to your values is what's going to create your true self. Your friends, the food you eat, the clothing you wear, the words you speak, they're all reflections of your values. And Mercury rules your 4th and 7th houses of emotional peace and committed relationships. So this is a time to contemplate your values and share them with your colleagues and close ones in a gentle yet assertive manner. Something needs to come out now. So speak from your heart and don't be afraid to share your needs. With the conjunction in your 2nd house of Aries, you might have a shakeup with your finances, or you may be sick of not getting what you deserve financially, and this is the moment. It hits. I'm sick of this. And I'm going to take greater steps to save, earn, and make more. This is a part of you valuing yourself and knowing yourself, and that's what these transits between these 1st and 2nd houses are about. So Mars ruling that 2nd house gives you that energy to figure it out. Figure out that stability, because that's what's going to give you the fundament inside of you to know who you really are. So go for what you value and make the change on the inside and the outside. The outside being your appearance, what makes you feel good when you go out into the world. Synthesize the inner and the outer. Pisces. Big year for you. Thank you, everybody, for listening to my first astrological prediction video on YouTube. This month is so intensely powerful and transformative for the whole world that I finally felt compelled to share what I have been studying for many, many years with you now. So I finally, as a big YouTube fan, get to say this for myself. Smash that like and subscribe button, guys. And hit that notification bell for any updates, which might not be for a long time because I can be a little inconsistent with this kind of stuff. But I hope to be consistent with it. And if you enjoyed this video, please tell other people about it, because I'm just starting up this channel and I need 1,000 subscribers to be able to monetize it and all that mumbo jumbo, as we know, and that you've heard a trillion zillion times on YouTube. So with all of that said, I wish you the best on your personal paths, and this is Angel sending you messages from the stars.